down orally, and that's why Ndithetha is Xhosa, because our codes are hidden in our languages, and that's why I love what I love with this collaboration, because we're teaching each other different things. He comes from a different school of thought. I come from my own fucking, and it's an experience. So we are confronting things that both our ancestors were running away from.
Yeah.
And we're trying to figure what is it that never made them to unite. Indoni ngubani lo Sathane, ngomphi lo Sathane oyenza uba singadibani, because we are all human.
Yeah.
You know what I mean?
Yeah.
So I think that's what we are trying to figure out, and it's not just between the two of us.
No.
This is not our project. It's our project, all of us.
Everyone.
You know.
As I say, it's for the people that come to the performance.
Let's talk about these things.
Let's talk. Let's open it
Let's
up.
have a conversation.
I mean,
but positively so, though, right?
We're not positive. We're not political, and we make that clear.
Yeah,
we don't come from a political viewpoint. We come from a humanist point.
Yeah.
Where I think everybody should embrace it, and those that do not embrace it will be threatened, because perhaps they profit from division within our society, and that's also common to humans. If you maintain a power structure, you have to divide the masses, and we're not going to lead a revolution. What we want to lead is positive dialogue, which we have around our dinner tables and in our kraals and whatever. We have those, but let's take that to a public forum, and let's do it sensitively. We're not going to go in and make these massive claims. We're just going to encourage people to even.
Salute.
Cheers.
Cheers, gents.
Cheers.
I think I got to open it.
Yeah, open yours.
Let's go.
An advert for Castle Light now.
Yeah. Come on now.
Free branding from all
All right, all right, welcome to it, man. This is the Free Ride Podcast, and I'm so excited to speak to these gentlemen. Oh my God, they've got such an amazing story, man. My word. All right, so thank you very much to all of you who keep liking, sharing, and subscribing to the Free Ride Podcast. So my guests are going to tell us and share so many amazing, beautiful stories about our country. So I've got with me Dr. Dean Allen and Laliboi. So let me say good afternoon to you, gentlemen. Looking all nice and chilled in the back seat.
Salute, Commander General.
Are you good, my brother?
I'm good, man. How are you?
All right, I'm well, man. I'm so excited to speak to you guys. I mean, I read your profile and I saw some amazing stuff you guys are doing. I saw the videos. You did a video on in the beach, and of course, it's such an admiring story that you guys are carrying out to teach our people, because so many of us don't know much about our history. So let's firstly start with you, sir. Welcome to South Africa.
No, thank you. I feel South African. I know I don't sound South African. I sound like I've just got off the plane, I know, but I've been here since the mid-1990s. I came from England originally.
Yeah.
And do you know what? As soon as I arrived in South Africa, I think it was 1996, I felt like I found my tribe.
Yeah.
This was going to be my place, the place where I could make a bit of a difference. I could tell some of the stories and write the history. And South Africa's been good to me. It spat me out a few times, but I've come back. And now working with this man, I feel like we can really make a difference.
Oh, that's amazing, man. My brother, how did you guys meet?
We met through Lizole.
Okay.
Lizole Joka.
Yeah.
Izocho.
Yeah.
So uLizole wadibana noDean. Yayiva ne? Udibana kwabo. Wayiqonda lento uLizole. Uyasiphazamisa abantu futhi amasasipana ngapha man. TV.
You're also here.
I'm here.
You're also performing here.
No, I'm not performing. I'm having an interview.
He's performing in the back seat here for an interview.
I'm
Yeah.
so sorry.
No
Ah,
worries.
don't be sorry. Don't be sorry. I'm here. How are you
I'm
doing?
just happy to see someone from the east side.
Thank you. Thank you, my boy. Thank you. Thank you for
So I
the
just
love.
wanted to comment on the car. That's what I came.
Yeah, as I
I'm
said,
so
obviously,
sorry,
I bet.
guys.
No worries,
Oh, cool.
Yeah, all right,
Thank you.
thanks. But we'll chat later, though.
Don't take photographs
Alright,
of me,
okay,
okay? He's a
That's what
dope
happens when we
photographer.
podcast, man. Everybody
No,
just
no, it's
sees the
good.
people at the back and then they want to talk.
No, but that's
Yeah, no,
what
it's
makes it
good.
real, doesn't it? When we're
Yeah.
sitting here in Melville, it's a Sunday, there's music going on. I mean, this is real.
Absolutely.
I mean, this is really cool. I mean, I'm from Port Elizabeth and as Lally's from Eastern Cape. It's cool down there, but this is a vibe. It's
Yeah.
good to be back in Josie, I must admit.
Oh,
It's a
that's
real
amazing,
vibe, yeah.
man. All right, so I want to go back and introduce you guys to our free riders.
Yeah.
Just a little bit on your personal histories. So you were born in the Eastern Cape, my brother?
Ewe ndazathi ndikwasegcuwa mna ndikurhadebe ndingumthi mkhulu undlebento zombini umashwabada washabadela iinkomo zambili imbona umafosafulela ungelengela umbhuco ndiyiloo nto bra ndingumntana omgquba yabona ayotshintsha loo nto yabo
Yeah.
and yes, I'm from the Eastern Cape, Butterworth, komkhulu ezazulwana.
Okay.
My great grandfather ngu-WK Tamsanqa, playwright, author.
Okay.
And I think that is what I have in common with Dean,
Yeah.
because Utatomkulu wanted me to be a writer, but I did something else. I did music, I was interested in sound,
Yeah.
telling stories ngenye indlela engafani nale katatomkhulu.
Yeah.
So when I met up with Dean, I was like, I checked. So when I saw Udin and the style of writing, and I was like, oh, I love this, because most of the books manezas balong they would be banned during the apartheid regime,
Yeah.
because we were writing Sandile Mqhayi,
Mhm.
and now Udin comes and he's so sincere and he's just telling a story, and you must understand but Dean is British and he has to deal with Boere boys.
Yes.
Ne?
Yeah.
It's not easy. Ne?
Yo.
So to tell the story of a people that you shared umbango wezwe nabo. Ndaqonda mama ndikhulula izihlangu zami ndinxibe zakhe. Yayiva ne? Yayiva ne? Yaphela laa nto yoba sizawuthi xa sitoyitoya siphakamisa iiplakats sithi kireke ke man ayisekho laa shit.
Yeah.
Yabo?
Sure.
Ngoku izwe xa sithetha ngezwe ifoba sibe nengqondo eqiqileyo mani madoda, and uxolo malambe phambili, because we can't deny influence yamangesi nawo amabhulu ubuhle basiyeke apartheid, because we're still healing from i-trauma yala way yabo. Yeah, we're still healing, and now as we came together, it's like, let's find solutions, like
Yeah.
let's celebrate who we are as a people, but let's heal each other, man. Like, let's work together, let's
I think for me, it's such a privilege, first of all, speaking to this audience, but because I'm an outsider insider in effect, I've invested in South Africa. I mean, most people are traveling to Europe and the UK to get away from South Africa.
Yeah.
I came the other way, and this is my place.
Yeah.
So even though, as I said, I sound very British, I feel South African, but it also gives me that perspective sometimes to step back, and it allows me to navigate sort of dealing with different cultures, and I see myself as a messenger. I'm not an expert in Xhosa culture or Griqua culture or whatever. Even Lali said the challenges I have sometimes from the Afrikaner people because of the checkered history between English and Afrikaans.
For sure.
Because as we all know, our history is not a struggle between black and white. It goes even deeper. Even there's divisions within those groups. So for me, when I first arrived in the 1990s, I had an Afrikaner girlfriend, which is interesting. And I learned to be very diplomatic, to keep my mouth shut and to listen, and to listen to their stories.
Yeah.
And I think that has put me in good stead. And I realized as a British person, I didn't know the history of South Africa. I didn't know some of the things that the British did here. We're talking in the frontier wars in the Eastern Cape and the Anglo-Boer War. So for me, it's a real privilege to be here. So when Lizoli got hold of me, he saw my style of storytelling and the kind of history that I write, and he could see something in me that would combine with this gentleman here, and we could do something special. Because at the end of the day, our history has been used to divide us as a nation. We're all different. We've all got different cultures, but our stories are very similar. And if we understand each other's stories, we realize we all want the same thing. We want a positive future. We want peace. But we can all celebrate our histories in different ways. But it doesn't mean we have to choose one or the other. And that's where I think the power of what we do. We're storytellers, but we call it our nation, our stories. Yeah. We celebrate different stories from different cultures. But that's where the power is. Because Lali will stand on the stage and he will talk about the same thing as me. Perhaps we'll come at different angles, but the audience will realize that actually we're saying the same thing.
Yeah.
And that's the power, isn't it?
So you deliver it in isiXhosa, and then you do it in English, obviously?
Yeah.
Well, it depends on the audience. If we have an English-speaking audience, of course, Lali can speak English. Unfortunately, my cause is not that great, and certainly not. I mean, I struggle with the click. Yeah. But apart from that, I think the authenticity is that we speak in our own language when we can. Yeah. And it's a way, I've been brought up in a very traditional way of telling history, of reading books that predominantly white academic middle-class men have written. Yeah. And we're dealing with Chief Makoma's story at the moment. And the books that have been written about that Xhosa warrior have been predominantly from white Englishmen, which is crazy. The story should come from his own culture. Yeah. So the point is, we are readdressing that. And we're doing it in a kind of cool, laid-back way. It's not intense, but it must be entertaining and it must be informative, educational. Yeah. So I think, given Lali's, I mean, look, he's the coolest man alive, isn't he? I mean, I'm not. I'd love to be as cool as him, but I'm not. But hopefully, I bring a. I don't know. Maybe the PhD, the fact I'm a best-selling author, I bring a bit of sort of credibility to what we do. Okay. But at the end of the day, the message is authentic, and I think that's where the power comes.
It's unbelievable, man. So you guys have performed at various places together?
We are on this. We're at the start of the journey. I mean, we've spent some great time together. We've been in the middle of the Transkei. We've been invited by people to absorb their culture. And really, it depends on the audience. You know, we could go into a school, for example, and you need to relate then, therefore, to the kids. Yeah. They need to understand, and I think that's where Lali comes in. I mean, he's trendy. He's current, and that's the thing. Whereas I'm a teacher by training, and for example, so schools, but also sort of corporate events, and those kind of people would also benefit from us. Remember, they talk about transformation, these big companies. Absolutely. What better way than look at transformation happening? These are two men and a group that we work with. We've got two wonderful people, the Zolly Joker and Rego, who's in the backstage, but they also help us produce this thing. Yeah. We are all about transformation. We're all about actually understanding.
Absolutely. That's amazing, man. So you bringing a side that relates, that can resonate with young people. Yeah. How are they receiving the information?
No man, man, it's simple way. Umzekelo ne. Thina sithi izwe lethu. Yeah. Africa mayiboya. Ingoma zoba omkhulu masiboya. Kodwa ke emotionally I don't think we are well aligned. Okay. Kulonto ne. So ke ngoku ukhumbule kaloku kwathina xa sifika apha. Sifika kukamaxamka, kukamakowena. Sawuthatha umhlaba. Eligama lithi Xhosa means angry man. Salithiwa ngamaxamka kuba bebethatha inkomo zethu ngenkani, uyayiva ne? Cela umamele ebhodini. So nathi singamangenela apha eMzantsi ne. Xa sifike eqala ne. Yafana nakaXhosa amangenela oqala masingabathembu ne. UmXhosa ngamaXhosa but kunabathembu kunamampondo and wonke umuntu othi ngumZulu ayingomZulu ne. Khona amankambule, khona uyayiva ne? Khona Xhosa makuhate. Khona amandwandwe, khona uyayiva ne? So izwe xa sithetha ngezwe mna xa ndicinga bra, and I stand to be corrected with this thing. Yeah. Yabo? Xa kuthetha ngezwe ingathi umhlaba wonke ngowethu. Sonke. Uyayiva ne? Akho nto owunayo xa ungumntu mos ne, because nalo mzimba uzawushiya mos ne. Yeah. So siqashile ne, sisemqashweni ne. emzimbeni kuqala, umhlaba ngumqasho wesibili. Yabona? So masiphilisana njani outside of la pain esibethane ngayo, man. Transcendence, you know, we need to transcend as human beings, as a human race, and that's what I stand for.
Yeah.
D1 sonor khatebe mthimkhulu emkhosini bamangelengele.
Yeah.
And so that's why ndithi ke ngoku our nation, our stories is that, you know, but we need to unite ngendlela yokuba how siyajani phambili, siyangaphi, yabo, siyangaphi madoda.
So are we making progress as a country based on where we come from?
Without a doubt. But listen, the one thing we've got is hope. I always say when I give talks, I mean, I'm invited to speak to a range of audiences, and I always say, what have we got in common? We've got hope. The grass is not greener. South Africa has its problems, but I can tell you, I've lived in America, Australia, Europe. Every country has its issues. Perhaps South Africa is not very good at promoting itself. So a lot of the stories that come out are negative, and we buy into that mindset. Now, with what we're trying to do is real. We're not saying that everything is great and fine, because it's not. Too many people in our country live in poverty. Too many people are struggling to feed themselves in a day. So that fundamentally is what is wrong. But in terms of our history and our culture, it's something we should celebrate. We live in a remarkable country, guys. I mean, 11 official languages, never mind all the different dialects.
Yeah.
You know, we are the Rainbow Nation, but that Rainbow Nation will only work if we embrace each other's cultures. Often people at the top, politicians, leaders, use our differences to divide, and divide and rule is something that we've seen throughout history, not just here in South Africa.
True.
So for me, the amazing privilege is to be invited by Our Nation, Our Stories, to be part of this, to be invited by people like Chief Makoma's family, as an Englishman, as a foreigner, to come and tell their story, or at least help spread the story. And I feel so at home doing that. Not everybody can do that. I believe I'm blessed with a almost a South African spirit, because for me, Europe is very it's very entrenched in its history and its hierarchies. Whereas here, look at what we're doing today. It's such an open exercise and it's fantastic. Yeah. So what I want to say to just people listening to this, please support us. We are growing. We're looking for feedback in how we do this, but we are real. Even though I know my good friend here, Lali, is very, very, very philosophical and he's got an idealistic way of looking at things. Yeah. We will relate to the issues that are happening today, because we are also struggling as well. We are all part of this future we want to take forward. True. But I think this is unique. Where else have you seen an Englishman who speaks like me, who has got my background? I went to university late in life, by the way, in my mid-20s. So I still feel this is an absolute honor to sit here with you guys and give my knowledge. Yeah. And then I've got this guy here on my left who's a free spirit, who's a deep thinker. And I think that synergy is quite unique. And I think if we get this right, it could be really powerful.
Absolutely.
Yeah, and another thing, you know, just yesterday we had a meeting with the Makoma family. And Umam Chawe, she says something very profound. Remember yesterday, the ANC, they went there the president went to clean the grave Kamakoma, and we are so grateful. You know, it's good that the Chief Makoma legacy is being acknowledged nationwide. You know, and we are so grateful. We love that. She then said, she mentioned something, and she said, Chief Makoma. Is not fighting currently in the spirit world. Yes, he was a warrior, no doubt. But now he's not there anymore. Makoma is not there anymore. Yeah. Makoma is about love, and that's the gospel. Christ had a gospel of his. He was a revolutionarist himself, trying to free the Israelites from the Roman outside of religion. So that's how I perceive Makoma, and that's how Mamzukiswa perceives Makoma. Makoma is a messiah to Mamzukiswa, and that was imparted to me. That's how I perceive Makoma now.
We are the messengers for that story. We use that as a case study. I mean, it's a real privilege that we've been commissioned by that family to work with them over the next year or so to bring that story out. But for me, that's the beauty of history, because it's storytelling and it's characters. Look at Chief Makoma. He was fighting my ancestors. He was trying to get rid of the colonials, the British, from this country. Yeah. He was that much of a thorn in their side. They actually put him onto Robben Island, and he died there as an old man. So we all know the story of Madiba, of course. Madiba also was that talismanic figure for his generation. And what did the colonials do? They put him onto Robben Island. So we don't have to look, at recent history. We can go back and use these characters from the past. And how many of our young people know about Makoma, for example? Yeah, but true. I think the power is through the stories that we are going to tell.
Another thing, Makoma, that's what I want to put on the front, is that Makoma is not trying to fight anymore. He wants peace, and that is according to Chief Okoyo Ngoki Kumkanikazi. Because yena self bebengafuna ukumenza kumkanikazi because engumuntu ongumama yabona patriarch intondoni yabo, and she carries the spirit of Makoma. She dreams about Makoma. Makoma communicates through her.
Yeah, it's an inspirational story, but for me, it's symptomatic of what we are trying to do, and I think it shows the heritage. I've walked a journey over the last 5 or 6 years that has sort of led me here. Yeah. I've turned my back on sort of teaching at universities with their structure and their bureaucracy. Their wages are good, of course, and it would be an easier life. But for me, I've got a lot more freedom to choose to do things like this in my writing. I feel I can make a difference, and for me to make a difference in South Africa, I have to have associations like Laliboi, and so what we're going to do is reach each other's audiences. If you think about it. That's the power of this, because now we're going to listen to each other. And again, I want to reiterate, I'm not speaking as a white man. I'm speaking as someone who comes from a certain viewpoint and a certain background, and your experience in life have been different for me. So we're coming together as different human beings, but realizing we are telling the same story, but from different angles. And I want the audience to take that away, because that is the power. That all of a sudden, the difference is not skin color. It's not whether you're South African or foreign. We've actually got different backgrounds. We should embrace those backgrounds, but go forward. We all want the same thing. True. We want our children to grow up in a safer, more prosperous South Africa. And if we can teach legacies of the past, we're going to use the likes of Makoma. Another interesting thing we haven't mentioned, where this kind of came about, was this whole debate about name changes. Okay. Now, we are from the Eastern Cape, where every other town is having its name changed because they want to get rid of this colonial legacy. So I live in Port Elizabeth, but of course it's Quebec now. Now, a lot of people are upset about that. Quebec, yes, there you are, the click. There you are. I'm going to have to learn that. But the point is, why are we getting upset about a name change? Because we feel we are losing control, or some people are losing control of the history. It shouldn't be like that. It's an evolution. If you look at a place like Grahamstown, Makanda, Grahamstown was named Grahamstown because Lieutenant Graham, a British general that fought the Xhosa warriors. Makanda was a prophet warrior who tried to take Grahamstown. Now the whole evolution has come around that it's now called Makanda. Now, if we understand the history and we understand how the country is evolving, we would not get so upset, because Lally will tell the story of Makanda, I will tell the story of Lieutenant Graham, and at the end of the day, what do the people of Makanda want today? They want peace, prosperity, they want a town that functions. But the politicians are using this name change thing, and they're not explaining the history to almost divide and keep people distracted. Now, that's a good way of how our nation, our stories can come to a community and get people thinking.
Yeah, and guys, I Dacela, Dean has written volume 1 and volume 2 about this thing of name changing and explaining it down as the Eastern Cape, It's very beautiful. It's a beautiful read.
It's all mostly like, as you say, like it's English names, most of them.
Of course it is. And I explain why they're called English names, and also why we're looking to change. Now, for me, I want people's lives to change as opposed to the name of a town. We can change the town, but is that making really a difference to people's lives? So the books he's referring to are called Frontierland. I drove through the Eastern Cape over several months, and I saw these towns that have almost become forgotten, and
Cathcart.
all places. You know, I started at dear old Craddock. Some of your listeners might know Craddock. Well, Craddock, they're talking about changing its name, but at the end of the day, the people of Craddock want a functioning town. They don't want potholes. They want to be able to turn on a tap for water to come out. They want electricity. They want a town that they can be proud of again. We can change the name, but are we changing the infrastructure? And for me, it wasn't for me to preach as a politician. It was for me to just clarify the history of these name changes and things. And I think that's an example of how we can actually get people talking again in a positive way.
Let's spark a conversation, ne?
Okay.
Yeah.
But in a very positive way, ne?
Yeah.
Singacabani, ne?
Okay.
But masithethe inyani, ne?
Sure.
So, umzekelo, i-town zaseTranskei, Eastern Cape, ne? They were named after lords and what?
Yeah, I mean colonials. I
And-
mean
and
the
knights,
the Cape
and Queen
governors,
and the
you know, would give them. I mean Craddock he was Sir John Craddock, the Cape governor, you know, in 1812 or whatever, and they named the town after him. So why
Yeah.
is it relevant to have Craddock? But
Yeah.
name it something else, but give people the power, give people the choice.
Yes.
And I think a lot of these things are taken away from us, and we don't understand why.
Those places were already named. Already they had names.
But
We
how many
named
people-
named our towns after rivers,
Yeah.
after forests and mountains. Yeah, even
Yeah.
as if it's closer. Yeah.
Now, if
So-
you
so-
explain
so-
that to the
so-
people opposing the name change now, do you think they'll accept it? Of course they will. But we're never given that sort of information. And that's why I'm going to come at it from a certain point of view and Lally from another point of view. We're then going to discuss it on stage.
So
And
we're gonna do this.
Yeah, we're going to do what we're doing now.
Now what we're doing now.
Yeah.
You know.
Yeah. And I guess you know, I think of history at school, and I think of how so many young people didn't find history exciting, interesting, and also I don't know if it's the way in which it's taught or the way in which it's written in its text form, because you were talking about a writing style that can sort of resonate with a younger generation who have a short attention span.
Yeah. Well, they didn't have a history teacher like me. You obviously didn't, did you?
Yeah,
Because what I want to do is make history entertaining.
Yeah.
You've got to tell it in the form of stories. If we go back to a classic storyteller from the Western culture, Rudyard Kipling. Kipling said we would all remember our history if it was told in the form of stories. And I know certainly in the African culture, how is your history passed down? It's oral history. It's told through stories. You talk about characters. Now, history at school is often taught out of context with just dates, kids learning dates.
Yeah.
We're all turned off by that.
And
you
that's where he comes from. Now I tell stories from his home.
Yeah.
Yeah, even So I find school of thought was fun, but it doesn't mean that kuba zingafani mazingadibani. Yeah, even
Yeah.
So there's a lot that our children will learn from these two different cultures, you know, or 4 or 5 different cultures for that matter, you know, because we really need to reflect the rainbow spectrum. But it doesn't mean we must lose ourselves as black people. Yeah, even yeah, and it doesn't mean that if we're saying that means a white man must go back to the sea. No.
Somebody was
So-
actually
So how do we work together?
Yeah.
How do we build moving forward? Because xa ifika uyanibadribe ke ndizumzekelo we traded from intoni Monomotapa Monomotapa intoni laa ndawo esezimapho yona amadoda Mapungube eMapungube xa isenzeka laa nto white people would come and we would trade, you know, like beads. Yabona into egqokwa izangoma. These beads are not South African, these things. You know, they're not South African. But now they are representing in Africa a South African traditional healers culture. Isilungu sam sisidomu ndizanixolela kodwa ndiyandivana ndidetayo ne. So
I think the thing to make clear here, go on, carry on. See, we both want to talk. We're so
yeah,
passionate
yeah,
about
yeah.
this.
let the guy speak. Okay.
Okay. So ndithi ke ngoku most of the things namabhayi ibhayi lezangoma livela phi No, we need to question these things. Our own African culture. Izinto zethu esizisebenzisayo most yezo neziwasho ezinye izinto zilandwe eIndia. Yabo? So xa uthi uyaya en-African ekubeni isiwasho sakho 85% or 75% yezinto ozisebenzisayo kwesi siwasho sakho nala coin oyisebenzisayo idizayinwe ngumlungu. Phaa kuthiwa uyakhanyisa. Idizayinwe ngumlungu. La jean spirit othi ubutshwala obumhlophe nala nto bobutshwala bakho obubomvu udizayinwe ngabelungu. Uthi uyacamagwisha uthini apha amarhewu ziphi inkobe uyayibona so already umsamo wethu is familiar with collaboration is there. They're telling us that you know, so masiqhubekise into zezinyanya. That's just my opinion, and I stand to be corrected anyway for anaxesha loba right. And because that's what this is all about.
Yeah.
To let's have a conversation, because it's not a performance, it's a presentation. So let's talk.
And you challenge the thinking.
Yes, we need to evolve. Let's see Usiapi.
Yeah.
You know what I mean?
For me, our presentations will be very interactive. We're going to learn from the audience. They will hopefully learn from us. We are trying to encourage a positive discussion. And as I said, this is not, the obvious appearance is it's a white guy and a black guy sitting in the back of the car talking about this.
Calm.
But it's not black and white. It goes so many different layers. And that's what I learned when I first came to South Africa. It was far more complex than this. Yeah. You see, everybody has got this idea of their own culture and heritage. And remember, it's not even a suggestion of who was here first. Because let's face it, guys, we are not Bushmen. We're not the Khoi or the San who are the hunter-gatherers. So history is very problematic when it comes about ownership. We talk about the Afrikaner people. They refer to themselves, or have been referred, as the white tribe of Africa. They think they're African. But that's okay. It's not a threat to other groups. It's a case of having a conversation, a philosophical conversation.
And one of the another thing is that even Afrikaans does not belong to the Boers. It was created during the Dutch East Indian Company, Yonkeland. It's the first version of Fanagalo. We created that thing together with the Malay colours. You understand? So we need to have those conversations. You know, it's high time. Yeah, we are another generation.
I think this is unique. I think, as I said, you can feel the passion, but it's also, for me, it's an opportunity. It's all about discussion. When we were creating the tagline, it's a positive discussion about our shared histories and cultures, and that's exactly what it should be for me. And as an adopted South African, I feel South African, but the fact that I sound and maybe look a little bit different, I can kind of come in and navigate and ask a few questions that perhaps I wouldn't be able to if I was a English-speaking South African or a Buddha or someone from a certain area. I've invested, my family are here. I've invested in this country. I want to be able to build a future that I'm proud of, because I've tried other places, and I promise you, this is a positive discussion that perhaps could only take place in South Africa. The likes of England and certainly America have their own racial tensions, their own discourses which aren't being talked about because they have decades of baggage. Like us, but they have decades of baggage that they do not work through. And I think I've always been inspired by sitting at dinner tables with friends of all races and colours and backgrounds and having these open discussions. That's something we do better than most. And don't let anybody tell you we're not good at that, because we are, because I've gone to other places. And that to me is what this is about. Our nation, our stories, encouraging positive dialogue.
Yeah,
I love that. And before you continue, so I just want to check that history is we've got a rich history, as you say, and is there a way, apart from you guys, going out to tell these stories, but that we can improve maybe in our education system to be able to package it in a way that actually then you reach a lot more kids. Of course, you guys want to also go around the country and communicate this message. But from a school point of view, is there something that can be done?
I believe education is the key. I know it's been said many a time, but we have to educate our young people. But I also think we have to encourage what we call critical thinking.
Yeah.
In other words, we need our kids to question the information they are fed. It's a harder thing to do than actually say. You know, our young people, they look at information on their phones. They have a 30-second, 1-minute attention span. But what I want them to do is think about the information they are getting fed, not only through the media, but also from their parents and from their colleagues and their peers, and think, why have they said that? Have they come from a certain opinion? And then make up your own mind. So I think if we can change, and we can change the thought process of some of our younger people, that's where this comes from. So instead of looking at history as something that is either for them or us, or it excludes people, it's actually quite inclusive. And I just want to make this point that I say in my classes. Remember, history is what historians have said has happened. The past is what has happened. And so remember, history has always been written through a lens. Even in local communities in the middle of the Transkei, that person telling you the story, it's through their mind, it's through their lens. It gets changed over time, which is fine as long as you realize that. So whatever we get on stage, or whether we have an interview like this, remember, this is our opinion. I hope to say I'm a trained historian, and I think about things a little bit more deeply than the average guy, but it doesn't mean that I'm not also influenced. So it's about encouraging positive dialogue and getting people to think for themselves.
And then
Okay.
I suffer from trauma.
Okay.
I suffer from apartheid regime. So I speak from a very passionate perspective, and I need not to be judged.
Okay.
Both my parents are from exile. So I'm a traumatized child. You too. You too.
No, for sure.
Yes, and those who are listening who are black like me, we can as I'm not thetha isilungu mna ndizenze cool. Uyayiva ne? Because diyanya. Uyayiva ne?
Okay.
Yeah, and sinya sonke.
Yeah.
So ndizama ukuthi ke ngoku kule nto ethethwa ngudini ngale ndlela ethetha ngayo education nantoni. We have children in the rural areas who have no access to school. They have to cross rivers to get to school. Who's talking about that?
Yeah.
We have abantwana who do not even have shoes, school shoes, let alone the whole uniform and don't. Mandela used to wear his father's shirt or grandfather's shirt with no underwear, barefooted to go to school. Nelson was not his name, wallpaper by a missionary teacher. And now we call him Nelson. Must I embrace that? No, I can't. That's trauma. I must get kamagula about fetus kuluming qanis. You understand?
Where does your
xolo thetha mna kaloku nje.
Okay.
Cela undimamele sundiqhawula ndithethe ungandithathi kumile. So ndithi ke ngoku andiyeke mani kandiyeke wena sindisokolisa.
Okay, hurry.
So ndithi ke ngoku we have our own educational systems in the African culture that have nothing to do with the Western ways of doing things. How we marry, the Westerners don't do that.
Yeah.
Izandla ziyagezana. Westerners don't know that. You understand?
Yeah.
That's education on its own. And we stopped writing not because we were stupid. We used to write. We are from Kemet, man. Come on, we started this thing, you know. But ours was passed down orally, and that's why Ndithetha is Xhosa, because our codes are hidden in our languages, and that's why I love what I love with this collaboration, because we're teaching each other different things. He comes from a different school of thought. I come from my own fucking, you know, and it's an experience. So we are confronting things that both our ancestors were running away from.
Yeah.
And we're trying to figure what is it that never made them to unite. Indoni ngubani lo sathane ngomphi lo sathane oyenza uba singadibani, because we are all human.
Yeah.
You know what I mean?
Yeah.
So I think that's what we are trying to figure out, and it's not just between the two of us.
No.
This is not our project. It's our project, all of us.
Everyone.
You know.
As I say, it's for the people that come to the performance.
Let's talk
or the
about these
presentation.
things,
Let's talk. Let's open it
Let's
up.
have a conversation.
I mean,
but positively so, though, right?
it's got to be positive. We're not political, and we make that clear. We don't come from a political viewpoint. We come from a humanist point. Where I think everybody should embrace it, and those that do not embrace it will be threatened because perhaps they profit from division within our society, and that's also common to humans. If you maintain a power structure, you have to divide the masses, and we're not going to lead a revolution. What we want to lead is positive dialogue, which we have around our dinner tables and in our kraals and whatever. We have those, but let's take that to a public forum and let's do it sensitively. We're not going to go in and make these massive claims. We're just going to encourage people to, even if they go away and have a conversation with a grandparent that they haven't had before, that they are going to do that. So for me, that is the power. And we've seen it with our own relationship. Lali came to one of my talks where I'm speaking to a predominantly white audience, an elderly audience, where I have to be very respectful because my elders know more than me. And I talk about certain things in South Africa. He came up to me at the end and he said, wow. He said, ever since I was a small boy, and I remember him saying this and it makes me shiver. He said, ever since I was a small boy, we were told that the white man was here to destroy and take from us. But he said, I've just seen you now for 1 hour talk about history in a way I didn't even think about. Now that is powerful. That is what we're going to do. Because remember, I see things because of not my skin color, but because the way I brought up, where a lot of people were brought up in South Africa, and he sees things differently. But it doesn't mean one is better or superior to the other. It just means we then understand we come from different areas, but we want the same thing as humans, as people who are invested in this country.
Yeah.
So we
on another level.
Yeah. So we need people
Yeah.
to be involved as well.
Yeah.
Because it's not just us, man. It's not about our nations, our stories, they like us. No.
I want people who are listening to this, who are hopefully inspired, to reach out to us, to look at us, look us up on social media, Our Nation, Our Stories. We've got a website now. We've got, Lazoli Joka is the manager, the guy that will organize events. Invite us to your community, invite us to your school, invite us to your club and society where we can have this discussion. As I said, it doesn't have to be an English presentation. I hope the majority of people there will at least understand me and my accent, but I'd like people to engage and make suggestions what you would like us to do with this project, because it is organic. We are growing.
Yeah. I think what I'd like. Yeah. I think I want to come to one of your events, your next planned events, or another second bite where we look at another specific different ways of specific history, because you're not telling it from a Xhosa point of view only.
No. It has nothing to do with Xhosa.
No.
Okay.
No, it's not. It's not
tribal.
British. It's not English.
British.
It's not
Come on.
Xhosa. It's not Zulu. It's not Sutu. It's we want to tell stories. And we want to represent. I mean, I've been approached by people of the San dynasty down in the Eastern Cape, the Griqua population, to say, listen, you can become a mouthpiece for our culture, for our stories. And how powerful is that, to have somebody from outside read and learn and understand about the whole thing? And that's what we're going to do.
Absolutely, man.
From
All right.
from
So I think let's take a ride while you take a smoke, and then just to give you a bit of a feel around.
Lovely. I'm looking forward to this. What a vibe.
Yeah, man. All right, so we're going to take a quick break. We're going to go for a ride with the gents, give them a bit of a spin around with Mr. President on the Free Ride podcast. And there's an event taking place just down the street. Bridget has put Yam's event together. There's a couple of artists that are performing there a little bit later. We're going to check them out. And then we're going to wrap it up with the gents. So it's been amazing learning from these guys, man. And of course, making history fashionable and making history exciting, because it has to be told in a storyline. And it's got to be exciting people that delivers the message around history as well. Because sometimes you don't want to just see like an old person who does not vibe with the young people. So there has to be that.
It's got to be relevant, hasn't it?
It's got to be relevant.
It's got to be relevant. Otherwise, the message is lost. And I hope whatever we do, we are relevant.
Absolutely.
We are relevant, and that's it.
and tell ungidayitele Zotsho. Khawundidayitele sana. Zotsho. Hey, ndifuna utshaya, ndifuna uqhuma mna.
Okay, cool.
Unetos?
All right. Let's take a break, man. Let's do this thing.
In our nation, our story's car, don't we? We need Lazoli to drive us around like this. I think. No, this is cool.
This is so
No,
cool.
that's dope. So you guys are looking to do a media tour, obviously.
We are. We've got a few interviews this week. I mean, I'm down in the Eastern Cape, so when I'm up here, we try to do as much as possible.
Yeah.
And as I say, it's just generating interest, really, and we're looking forward to people reaching out to us and inviting us to places. For us, the more shows or presentations we can do, the more we can make this relevant to people and get the message out there. You know, and I think that's the
Say
key.
winner.
Is that no friend?
You know, he's a friend of mine. Just yeah.
You know everyone everywhere, don't you? I can see that.
No.
Yeah.
No, not really, Tim. But I do. But
Yeah, that's nice.
I don't
That's
know.
nice.
I'm touched if I can travel alone because they are my friends. You know.
Yeah. Okay, so all right, so you've got a few lined up that just to carry the message across.
Yeah, we have, and we met with the Makoma family yesterday, which is fantastic, and formalised that relationship. So that'll be part of our journey over the next year or so. Next year is the 150th anniversary of the death of Chief Makoma, which is amazing. Which is amazing. So we are building up to telling that story, and but as I said, that's a good example of what we can do. We can make it relevant to certain communities, and that's the most important thing.
You know what I liked? What was so interesting? I only knew that if anyone is spiritual and has or receives messages from the ancestors, they must go Twasa. Ne?
What do you mean? Twasa.
Twasa means initiation so that you can be
Okay.
A traditional healer, if you want to be a sangoma or
yeah, but you must go through initiation and therefore you inyongo, you don't need pile, you don't need inyongo,
yeah, pile.
ne?
Yeah.
If aba igalelwe enhloko, it must be poured,
On top of your head.
ne? Right?
Well, I don't know what the process is of doing.
Yeah?
Yeah.
So that's what I knew, like those rituals as to what qualifies you to be a sangoma,
Okay.
and that should be the process. And I didn't know that there's also an alternative when it comes to the calling. Umam Chawe, she said to me, she's not a traditional healer. I thought she was all this time, but I was questioning myself because she's not wearing the beads, and I was like, what? Like what's happening here? You know? And she's like, no, I'm a dollar. I didn't know, but I'm a dollar. Even in Dr. Xhosa, bra. Because Xhosa sininzi, sibanzi. Itola is he or she who heals through spoken word. Yeah, you ready? And Umam Chawe is that. You know?
And the point is there, you said it, you're learning. You're learning
I'm
about your
learning.
own culture. I'm learning about South Africa and the culture I represent.
Yeah.
And that's the power. Because we are not here to preach or tell people about history.
Sure.
We're to open a discussion.
Sure.
We want to engage with an
Yes.
audience. We
That's
want them
the point.
to actually inform us as well. And through that process, with us being on a stage in front of an audience, the audience will engage with each other. And that is the key to what we're doing.
That's power, man.
Power.
All right, gentlemen, I think you've shared quite a mouthful. I mean, I've learned quite a lot, and I'm sure all of us can benefit from these discussions. And it's really powerful to actually talk about what has happened and for us to understand, because sometimes people are just angry at each other without really understanding exactly what happened, and also to learn to forgive. Because I mean, I think your stories are powerful in that your ancestors fought against each other.
That's right.
And then years later, here comes these two guys that meet up.
Last way today,
Yeah.
Dean Jogare, there's this guy called Thelodas Shipstead.
Oh, of course, yes.
Yeah, you remember him?
Yeah.
And then he comes, this guy, and then because he wanted the young men then to work for him before they can get married, right? did not want them committed in any, because they understood their rituals.
Yeah.
Ndithetha ngento yelobola wena Groti, ne?
Yeah.
Lobola, ne?
Yeah, of course.
And then he said, sasilobola ngokutya thina nangamarhewu singaxakekanga futhi.
Yeah.
Umfazi wayengekoduri. But Shepstone comes into the picture. He says, no, 12 cows. Really? Jobless society as us.
How do you come up with 12 cows?
Umqondo lo shit. Let's have those conversations.
Yeah.
When we're talking about decolonization, I'm just talking to abantu bomgquba, ndithetha nabantwana basekhaya mna ndandiva ne ndithi ke ngoku masizilungise zona man, yabo eva ne.
Very powerful stuff, man. Okay, so once more, guys, where can people get a hold of you and how can they book you for the events?
Both myself and Lally are very active on social media. You can find me under Dr. Dean Allen, obviously Laliboi Official on Twitter and on Instagram. But the main point of contact, please go to our website, which is Our Nation, Our Stories. Google that. Our contact numbers are there. Get hold of Lazole Joko, who's managing this process, and get us to a place near you. We'd love to come and visit your community or your group.
Yeah, please, and please, we need the opinions of the people, both black and white, Indian, colored, Chinese. I'm sorry. Let's just have a conversation. Let's talk about these things, man. Like it's about time now. Let's have a conversation. Let's sit down and talk. We need your opinions. We need your view, and we are not saying we are right, Dean.
No, not at all. No, we are not preaching. We are here to encourage a positive discussion.
Discussion, please.
Absolutely.
But bring your negative emotions, and then we will find a way to deal with that, right?
Yeah.
Yeah.
All right.
As a collective.
Yeah.
And yeah.
Because, it's interesting you'd say emotions, because people are often very touchy when it comes to the race issue,
Big time.
So black people, when they come to engage, they want to come through as
Ufuna jam. Iwile maboy. Ngicela uyiphakamise nje yami.
Wait.
Uyitshwere nja.
Oh, okay.
Okay. Salute commander.
Hola.
Salute general.
All right, so our fake number plate, well, not a fake, like our set number plate fell off. Yeah. So anyway, gents, I think I really appreciate you guys coming through. I've really learned a lot from our discussions, and you've imparted quite a lot of knowledge. And I think all of us need to reflect on where we come from and acknowledge the differences we have, and be able to move forward together without feeling like this one is a victim, this one is a perpetrator, this one's grandparent was responsible for this and that and this, and be able to openly discuss, because I think that's important to have, because people are touchy about the issues of race. And I think it really allows for people to openly discuss with facts and information and guide them to be able to build a better society. So I really appreciate you guys for what you're doing.
Totally.
It sounds powerful. And man, this has been another episode with amazing, powerful guests. I really appreciate what I've learned today. And gents, once again, keep up the good work, and I wish you guys all the best. May you reach all the corners of this country and touch people's lives. And that's what we need.
Thank you.
Last word. Dibambe ne?
Yeah. Yeah.
Iyo le number plate le.
Yeah.
Kutheni siwa yona.
Yeah.
Inga ndiyacela abantwana basekhaya. Don't be afraid to be who you are, umXhosa makamXhosa, umTsonga makabe ngumTsonga, umVenda makabe ngumVenda, and come as you are, and that's how we want you, and because I know I don't think TRC was enough. So our nations, our stories, we are trying to do something similar to that. Maybe I could be wrong, but the model is not that. In this now, because the audience is involved, and I'm sorry to refer to you as an audience, you are not that. So let's have a collective discussion, and please greet us.
Big boys, we can handle it, can't we?
Yeah, please, because we need you.
Yeah.
Let's just move. Let's keep going. Let's just keep going.
Powerful
First
stuff.
Mark.
Great, man. All right, man. So this has been another episode. Wait, quickly, one last thing. You guys are about to go into an event organized by Bridget. You were there, but earlier on, you probably you listened to a few artists doing some sound checks, performing, and you saw the vibe, the venue. I mean, your thoughts on that?
No, this is fantastic. We're in Melville here, and of course, this is a real happening place anyway. But no, Bridget's events there in Casa, the restaurant. It's I thought it was an open mic. It felt really organic, but she said no. There's 25 acts today. They're coming in a certain order. But yeah, it's fantastic. Some boys there from the East Rand earlier on. They're all there supporting each other. I think this is going to be quite a good day. So I'm looking forward to some of the music. And this man next to me, of course, he's more of an expert than me. You've got to be careful. They might ask you to go up, and this is your day off, isn't it?
It's my day off.
All right, man, we out. All right, we out. This has been an amazing episode of the Free Ride Podcast. We'll check you out later, and let's take it easy, man. Boom!
Hello, it's Dean Allen here. And for those of you that know me, you know how much I love South Africa. Yes, I sound like I've just got off the plane from England, but I've been living in South Africa on and off since the mid-1990s. For me, South Africa is all about the people. It's all about the culture. It's all about this rich heritage that we've got. And that's why we've come together to create this exciting project called Our Nation, Our Stories, where I'm going to be joined by Laliboi to talk about our shared history, our shared culture. There is no reason why we should contest our history. We all share in the history of this wonderful nation. So please join us at an event near you where we can encourage positive dialogue about our history and about our shared nation. Through stories, of course, because I'm a storyteller, as Laliboi is. So I look forward to seeing you at an event near us soon.